I think that the audience of drugs is getting younger and younger.
Every night I'm out, there's always people around me taking them, and it would probably be really easy for me to get them.
Probably take maybe an hour and a half.
You'd see it nearly any night out at all. You'd see somebody taking drugs in the bathroom.
Maybe 50% of the people on a night out would be on drugs.
This is the Underdog Psychosis podcast. My aim is providing enjoyable and useful content for any person that may relate to. I'd say it was initially probably around 12 or 13, just kind of joints and stuff. I don't relate the current trend with drugs to anything to do with being that age. That age it was more kind of just trying to impress people and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So we just got our hands in bags of weed and just smoked it, I suppose. I'd say it was around 12 or 13. I suppose around 16 I kind of was first introduced to kind of like ecstasy, and we actually took a silly amount for that age. Obviously drugs having a big effect on people as well. Like taking drugs that young when your brain's not fully developed is known to have bad effects. Like around 16 there was a group of my pals that we went to camp, and we were crazy for a while. Like we were just hanging around with people older than us, and it was kind of every second weekend we were taking ecstasy and MDMA and stuff like that, and it doesn't have a good effect on you in the slightest. Like I see a lot of people overthinking things. I overthink things, you know what I mean? People do get rattled, so there is a big issue with people taking drugs before the brain is fully developed and all that.
The effects of drug use on the brain in general, there's a couple of different aspects to that: physiological, behavioral. On a physiological level, it changes the way that neurons communicate with each other. One neuron communicates to another one using neurotransmitter. A drug can basically trick the brain into thinking that a neurotransmitter is present, and in doing so it can activate neurons that are involved in a function or a behavior and make it more compulsive or long-lasting. In particular, drugs tend to activate what we call a reward pathway or system within the brain that tells the person to keep performing an action, to perform it over and over.
I suppose when drug use becomes problematic for a person, obviously it will impact on other family members and also on their friends and the relationships with their family and their friends. So there can be issues like from even just financial issues because you're using more and more money towards drugs, and money for family becomes less. When
you're from like an urban area, I think you're kind of surrounded by these things an awful lot quicker than people that are from kind of more privileged rural kind of backgrounds. Like I didn't come up poor or anything like that, like, but it's just when you grow up in an urban setting, like these things are going to surround you, and either you have a built-in mentality that you're going to try and avoid. And my parents did their very best to implement that mentality as well, but you just had that kind of fuck it like mentality at that age.
What most people would consider addiction to be is purely in terms of behavior, but of course it has an underlying physiological basis as well. There are differences that occur in the brain that we'd associate with addiction. Similarly, a person might be addicted and be more or less functional on a day-to-day basis. One person might have a physiological effect of taking a drug, they might become dependent on it, but they might find it relatively easy to give it up and might have little in terms of long-lasting damage as a result. But another person might find it very, very difficult to give up. So there's an interaction there between behavioral and physiological aspects of addiction that we really need to take into account of both of those whenever we consider addiction.
I think prescription drugs is the most that's the most horrific trend we're seeing now. And I know from personal experience how quick that doctors prescribe them. You know, it's scary. If you go up there and say you had a nightmare, they're going to prescribe you some sort of fucking antidepressant. Like, you know what I mean? It's frightening in that sense.
When it comes to doctors over prescribing medication, it's definitely something that happens. So they can write down the wrong kind of amount, the milligrams, and they can write down how long they're meant to take it for, so the days and weeks or how long it's on. It's something that I find my pharmacist is constantly ringing up about. Ring that doctor there, ask them what do they mean by this. Their handwriting on most of the scripts is very poor, which is the thing that is very true. But yeah, with the addictive substances as well, as I said, it has to be written in the figures and numbers, and if it's not written in both, we can't give it out. And that's a new thing I think that came in within the last year, so they've gotten very strict about it, but it is something that can be abused in both areas, that they're not filling it out correctly or filling out too much or too little.
The type of drug that's being used has changed. So we're looking at, for example, recently I think, at an increase in the use of prescription medication, the likes of benzos and so on. I think that's probably a trend more recent. The problem is really a multitude of factors that contributes to problematic drug use. So they can be things within the individual, for example, things like low self-esteem, low self-confidence, poor decision-making skills, all of those kind of things. Then it's kind of the next layer around the person, like peers or problems with relationships, problems within the family can lead to drug use. And then we have the next level problems at work, college, school maybe. And then of course the whole wider socioeconomic issues that impact on people's lives, like poor education, but poor work or no work.
I'm not going to go full tinfoil hat now, but we're essentially enslaved by this commercial society, and we're just work to the core all day or all week, 40 hours a week. So people on the weekends, of course, are going to get after fucking tits. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? That's it. Reality is fucking shit an awful lot of times. People want to get whacked. Like.
There are addictive personalities, whether or not some people are more likely to become addicted to a drug. And the short answer is yes, there are people who might have a genetic predisposition to be more likely to become addicted to a drug, through whatever means that might be. It could be that they're more sensitive to the positive effects of a drug, so that they get more reward from taking the drug, or they might find it just more difficult to remove the established changes that they've learned, the behaviors that they associate with a drug.
People associate self-actualization and feeling good about yourself, they associate that with other people's opinions of you and stuff like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a hopeless sense in Limerick, not the way people that don't have degrees, like, you know what I mean? There's just a gloomy feel to it. I think people resort to drugs in order to soothe the numbness of the reality that there is here. I think it's a dull place compared to a lot of places. Like.
I think some people do definitely need to take drugs on nights out, but other people just take it for a social aspect.
I don't see, if you take drugs, like, I think it's more like a turn off, like I don't see any attraction with it.
The top three I'd say would be cocaine, MD and ecstasy.
I know of a guy, he's actually schizophrenic now, I think. He from ecstasy. He was trained to be a pilot, and he turned schizophrenic, and everything went out the door for him. I'm not sure what he's doing now. I'm pretty sure he's living at home, and he's in his late 20s anyway, but yeah, pretty much ruined his life.
I was in active addiction for 20 years. By 16 and a half, I was taking these every weekend. I've just progressed from there.
Young people use drugs for a reason, you know. They use it maybe because it's fun or it's risky or it gives them some kind of thrill or whatever it is, the reason for. I think we need to find really good alternatives that provides the same kind of thrills or experiences of fun out there in the communities for young people.
You have such big aims and big ambitions for yourself as a, like, say, 16-year-old, and you're so relaxed and just content with just kind of coasting because, you know, I'll get my shit together around at 20, 21, 22. And you have a lot of people leaving school now with good leaving certs, good degrees, and there's fuck all out there for them.
Personally, I think I just felt that I sort of wanted to belong in a group, so I was going from group to group, maybe personally trying to impress people Just instead of taking one, he'd taken two E's, and people started praising him that way, sort of easily led in a way, you know. I think my addiction progressed then from then on.
I think the fear of missing out is a big thing in Limerick as well. You know what I mean? Like that FOMO thing is legitimate. Like, and from the outset, like when you're talking about 13-year-olds smoking weed and stuff like that's a big part of it. So the fear of missing out has to be taken into account. A lot of people just snort to fit in, and a lot of people take drugs to fit in. And I was one of them. Like I was.
I became severely in debt.
I lost my family.
It ruins lives.
It broke up my relationship.
I lost my job.
I wanted to fit in.
I was being chased out of town. I owed a serious amount of money to a lot of dodgy people. They were putting pressure on my family.
It can cause a lot of stress for family members themselves, trying to live with a person who's dependent or is experiencing problematic drug use. So kind of mental health issues is quite common.
I think that the main issue with drugs in this city is attached to mental health. Like that is why drugs are so prominent in Limerick. Like it is, and Limerick is the worst mental health up there in Europe. I know how twisted governments are. Like I do. Like that's my passion with studying all that stuff, and they keep people on their knees to maintain control. Like, and mental health is a perfect way to do that. They don't give a shit. Like they cut back the expenditure on mental health last year. So of course people are going to be taking their own health into their own hands, and they will attempt to get their hands on benzos and stuff like that.
Drug dealers are getting away with too much due to poor structures in the courts, not by the police as such, but I think the court system. I think you have to do some deep thinking yourself before you get anywhere. You have to grab onto your strong friends and family. If your family's available, they're going to be the rocks in your recovery. There is addiction centres there, but you have to get the ball moving yourself. Before that, NA meetings and AA meetings I think are vital. It's a bit daunting to go in there first, but once you get in there, there's actually really good people in there. They always give sound advice, and you never come out of a meeting with feeling worse than you went in. When I came out of treatment nearly straight away, I was blessed enough to get a job, and sort of that just fell in my place. So I had a good routine, good structure, good support from my family and my girlfriend at the time.
Cool Mine now, where it's my newest job. I'm there since February only, so it's kind of new to me as well. But it's a long-term rehabilitation program, and they really work very hard. For example, there's a women and child centre there, so that women can live with their children. So there's some really positive outcomes. Children that they actually might have had to put into foster care, for example, if that facility wasn't there, and they might have lost custody of them, you know. And because of the treatment and the rehab that's ongoing, you know, they're reunited with their children, and that's a really positive outcome. And people do, you know, recover. It's very possible to recover if you have a very strong addiction.
Be more wise to think about your actions rather than jump in, and at the time stop trying to impress people, try to impress yourself instead of other people.
People in Limerick need to sit back and realise how great they can be, and like what's been great for my life has been this fighting thing, being a podcast, discovering passions and pursuing them, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Before fighting, I was smoking 25 a day, do you know what I mean? I've only smoked one today or whatever. I'm going to go down to Cork the weekend, I will get a laugh, but I won't drink, because you need things to be keep you on the straight and narrow or whatever. So people need to just start pursuing things, because when you don't pursue things, you have no lane to be focused on, and that's when you end up snorting the back half of it.